quite the gloomy Halloween. Technically, even though I had the costume lift yesterday, that was a little bit of a day ahead situation. So, not jealous for any trick or treaters running around tonight. I'm not Doesn't look like it's gonna rain later, but still, you'd wish it was. You'd wish it'd be nice and warm, right? But either way, plan for tonight's lift with back. You know the drill. You know the drill already, right? I want to be pumped up from the lowest fiber of my lats to the deepest muscle striation of my inner traps and everywhere else in between. So I'm not a huge fan of like a lat specific day and then like an upper back row focus day, which it's not necessarily because I think one is like magically way better and the other one's not going to work. But if you take somebody who hits back twice a week and you have them do a lat focus day where they only do 8 sets of pull downs, and then that next day you have them do an upper back focus day where they only do 8 sets of rows, shrug kind of work, like more upper back focus stuff. At the end of those 2 weeks, they've done the same amount of sets as the guy who did 4 sets of lats, 4 sets of upper back rows, and then just repeated that the next lift. Now, if you've got a specific imbalance, that could be a different situation. Like if your traps are fucking way ahead of the game to the point where it always looks like you're trying to like mean mug somebody, but your lats are lacking in width, maybe chill out on traps. I mean, I can't remember. Well, sometimes I throw little sets of shrugs in just for like a little bit of the pump effect for my traps, but I never do any insane direct trap work. And the only reason for it is it's just not necessary. My traps are kind of big enough, you know? So that's where recognizing like, okay, where do I really want to work on? Like what am I kind of lacking? Then, maybe having a more selective back day might be your thing. If you've got traps for days or like mid traps, not the part that shows up over your shoulders, but the part right behind your mid back is like real beefy, but your lats are under. Maybe do some more lat focus work, man. So it's really a person by person thing. But for me, if it's back day, I want my whole back pumped, lats, traps, everything else. And I've gotten a couple more comments than I would usually expect asking the same question. And it's the gist of them is like Sam's always talking about getting pumped. He's always talking about the pump. What the hell does he mean? And frankly, I was kind of astonished that was even a real question. I mean, it's that's a lifter 101. What's a pump? But for those unaware, potentially those uninitiated, I will explain. Right. So the basic gist, at least in a bro sciencey kind of way, is after you finish 3 or 4 pretty hard, serious working sets, you've actually pushed yourself near failure. You should start to notice a minor swelling, right? A little bit of a tightness, not uncomfortable, but just apparent, where you're like, oh, all right. Oh, excuse me. Wait for the caffeine to hit me. But you should start to notice, okay, I'm getting a little tense here. What's going on? Whoa, that's weird. I don't usually feel like this before. 3 more sets, you really push it. At the end of it, dude, you're literally bigger than you were before. Whatever muscle you just hit is now actually inflated some with extra blood, extra fluids, extra everything floating around in your system from the kind of damage and inflammatory effect that those sets gave to you. And that's in a good way, right? The pump is let's get this clear here. The pump is a good thing, something to be chased after, something to aspire to. But the basic gist of it is if you have a good lift, you actually do hard sets, each set should progressively almost make you a little bit more and more swollen until you're as pumped as you can be. I know that might be kind of an oversimplification, but I don't really think about it any other way. If I were to do this lift and every set I stopped 5 reps before real failure, I would physically suffer. The pump would suffer. I wouldn't be as big and inflated. I wouldn't get so much blood directed into my lats and reoxygenation and everything else. It just wouldn't be as good of a lift. So it's not like physically being pumped is the only driver of muscle growth. But to have done a good lift, you pushed yourself hard, you've got a good night's rest, you've got enough food in your system to fuel the workout, combined with pre workout, and every set you fucking kill it, then at the end of your workout, you should be fucking pumped up. And if you, as a beginner, it gets a little tricky because the actual effect of being pumped up, it's purely a percentage change. You know, it's like I, uh, I don't know the exact numbers, but I would say when a muscle gets pumped up, it maybe expands 10% in size. Chest is more apparent, maybe even up to 15% in size, which might not sound like a lot, but when you look at your own body enough from working out, a 15% change over the course of just an hour is pretty fucking drastic. So as a beginner, you know, if you've only got cumulatively maybe 2 pounds of meat on your pec, or maybe even one, I mean, depends on how big you are, a 15% change, that's only about an ounce, you know, or maybe 2 ounces. So not the most abrupt change, but the bigger you get, the more of an actual like differentiation you being pumped will be, because 15% of like 1 pound of pec might not be that much, but 15% of like 3 pounds, that's triple the fucking change in mass. You know? So it's kind of a it's sort of an inflationary type situation, right? It's like if you're getting 4% back or whatever from your savings account, the guy who's got $100 in it got $4 back this year, whatever, right? But the you know, some kind of high roller who's got 10 million in his savings account, his ass just made what? What's 4% of 10 million? 40,000. Still the same percentage change, but the amount is different. So all that's to say is in all of my lifts, I am essentially chasing the pump. Right? I'm making sure that as my sets progress and the workout continues, that I get more and more pumped until I feel like I'm fully fatigued, as inflated as I'm going to get. It's time to pose down, go home and eat something, right? Start the recovery process. And some guys aren't really not all lifters are pump fanatics. You know, surprisingly, I'll hear some guys where they basically say, like, who gives a crap about the pump? It's all about mechanical tension. It's all about, you know, your 6 rep max. At whatever, right? But as far as I can tell, the pump has never led me astray. Because if I do a set of pull downs and I don't really feel an awesome squeeze, and I'm not really getting just a really good contraction, I know that that set isn't gonna really get me too pumped up, so I'll move on to something that does. You know, so it's kind of a, it's not like a direct relationship, but to pick movements which you really get a full squeeze on, I mean, there's no other way to explain it other than it feels good to do. I think that's what the magic is, you know. So it's that's something to be learned over time. Like if you're a, you know, month one lifter, you're coming into the gym with a crew of guys where they already work out and they're kind of taking you under their wing, showing you how to do everything. Then be a little bit more concerned with making sure you can feel your targeted muscle, just go through the process of getting more set by set movement experience. But sometime between, you know, a few months in to however long, and it's going to differ person to person, but you should start to feel a certain connection where, you know, instead of just feeling like you're holding the bar with your hands and like just pushing it away from you when you're doing a bench or like a chest press, now you suddenly feel one day a goddamn a gosh dang eureka moment where instead of just pushing a bar, you actually feel that your chest is pulling your arm upward, right? You're not just pushing with your hands, you kind of isolate your system just to right here, and your chest is what's pulling your arm inward. I remember I had that when I was lifting in my parents' basement, a little home gym. I'm doing incline bench. It helps when you're looking at yourself in the mirror too. And I swear it was like a light switch flipped where I said, holy crap, this is the mind muscle connection. And I freaking, that was it. Honestly, that was as cool to go through the process of as when I saw my first like bicep vein. So something to look forward to if you're still getting into it. Like the day when you can really feel that you're pulling the bar down with your lats and not with your biceps and your forearm, and you get the gist of when guys are talking about like mind muscle connection and everything else. That is a good step up toward becoming a gosh dang gains master. But not to overstate it, but I'm excited for back. So how about we stop talking about it and actually make it happen? First movement. I was not even sure what I wanted to start with today. Frankly, this might not have been the gym to roll to for back, but I think I'm kind of I don't know, like because for me, chest, legs, arms, it's so classic. Like I start with the same basic skeletal framework. Like chest, I usually always start with a heavy press. Legs, always leg extensions first, and then squat or Smith or whatever. Arms, always push downs, overhead, regular dumbbell curls. But it's almost like having unlimited choices makes it harder to choose for me with back, because it's like I really do mean this when I say it. I could probably do anything. I could do some bent over single arm rows, 2 sets of those, then a different row, then a pull down, and like it would be fine. So I think what's going to motivate this workout is just changing it from what I've been doing. I've been starting with pull downs, starting the rows. So let's change it up, start with a pull down, or a pull over, I mean. Single arm, failure either side, and then we'll go from here. And after doing this one working set, it should start to reveal to me what I really want to do next. But left side first. And a little heavier. Oh my god, okay. Okay. One more. A little lighter. So this one will have a much more pronounced squeeze. But that feels really good. I'm not going to talk too long between these sets, but I do like this much more than a double arm like rope pullover. Like, not to say that's bad for everybody, but for me, I can feel my lats squeeze so much harder doing one arm at a time instead of having my grips kind of constrained to be right in front of me. But if you feel it, do which one you feel better. But one more minimum. Oh man, okay. Whoa. Oh my goodness. Now do I do one more or move on? I like the feeling of it. Let me think for a second. Let me think on it. I'm not typically a huge dumbbell row fan, but in the same spirit of the fact that I don't normally do it, now I want to do it. Not too heavy though. Let's just leave the 110 on its own down there and do a squeezing, very mindful set with the hundreds. Left side first. All right. Yeah, there we go. Oh my God, okay. Yeah. Okay. One more of those. And I'm trying to squeeze more traps than lats. Yeah. No, you. Before I move on to some kind of squeezing finisher, let's get these pull downs going. Now, still squeezing, but this isn't the finisher. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God, okay. Ooh. All right. Let's go finish with a bit of a superset. All right, that'll be it for back. This will be a perfect finisher. And no need to even do a superset because it's almost is combining two movements into one. the stretch of a pull down and the full back squeeze of a row. A little more rare I start back with this movement, but pretty frequently do I finish it. And not for no reason, as the pose down in just a minute will explain. Oh. Oh my God, okay. That's enough. Not unsurprisingly desolate in there, at least compared to the last couple of days. And I think we all know exactly why that would be, right? It's fucking Halloween. Everybody's out kind of scurrying off. The gym does not need such praise, doesn't need such dedication. I saw one guy comment where he's like, dude, it's just the gym. It's not that big of a deal. I I almost pinned his comment, said to get a load of this guy, but I don't want to call him out too specifically. But I mean, you're right. You know, the gym doesn't have to revolve, your whole life doesn't have to revolve around the gym. But like anything, the more effort you put into it, the better results you're going to get out of it. Plus, you get that overall general enjoyment. Because with lifting, I mean, if you're in reasonable shape, you get to enjoy that across the rest of your fucking day, not just in the gym. So I can't fucking speak highly enough of getting your daily pumps in. But let's run through a couple here. Go. Go. Holy crap. I am covered. I'm absolutely covered in fucking sweater scuzz. But solid back day. A little tricky to start with though. So not only was I having a little trouble being inspired to pick which movement I wanted to start with, apparently everybody was doing back tonight. So, you know, I'd meander my way over to one of the classic pull downs, and then a crew just barely established himself. And I mean, if it's just one guy, it's a little different, but you're, you know, it's not typically gym etiquette to go up to a crew of 5 on one machine and say, you guys mind a fifth? I mean, do what's necessary, but you know, might be better off just picking something else. But let's get in the car, man. We're done. I should have saved that cardio bike ghost story bit for today. It would have made a little bit more sense since it's freaking Halloween. But one thing another comment I think deserves some, if not recognition, maybe just some addressing, is the guys where they say, Sam, are you seriously dieting into winter? Sam, what is wrong with you? You're dieting into the holiday season? Are you nuts? And to that I will say, there is no force beyond my own, beyond my own will, which is going to throw me off of whatever dieting phase I'm in, be it bulking, cutting, or otherwise. So, I don't know, man. You know, I think if you have to designate specific seasons to specific dieting phases, you might be falling into the hive mind. You know, there's nothing wrong with dieting into the holidays unless you don't think you'll be able to handle it. Right? I mean, Thanksgiving dinner's going to come around. You can be responsible enough to plan a refeed day on Thanksgiving if you really gotta, chow down. But I can have like a fucking big ass plate of, mainly turkey, but still hit every side imaginable. You know, a touch of gravy, some deviled eggs, some mashed potatoes, everything else, and still be on track to my diet and goals. You know, it's not out of the question, right? I mean, it's so classic. You know, bulk in the summer, or no, bulk in the wintertime, be shredded in the summertime. But I mean, what are you supposed to do? You know, let's say you kind of have an itch to get leaner, you want to start losing body fat. Ah, well, it's already November. Well, it's about to be winter. Whatever. And then, frankly, I see that as just reason to put off any changes dieting wise for later, right? It's so classic. Oh, well, I want to start a bulk. I've been kind of plateaued the last couple months, but uh, it's already April. You know, summer is going to come around. I don't want to have a higher body fat than I do right now. It's purely focusing on the negatives. Whenever anybody is trying to decide whether it's a good time to start bulking or a good time to start dieting down, it's almost as though, I mean, when I see these like thought processes written out, it's not even a pros and cons list. It's just a cons and cons list. Like the only thing I hear when somebody says, or like, maybe it's not the best place to have this kind of discussion because comment sections are not they're not always the most conducive to just you know level-headed discussion. But let's say somebody's bulking up or whatever, and somebody will comment, dude, it's time for you to diet down, or whatever, right? All the reasons are always, well, I don't like tracking my macros. I want to be able to enjoy food. I don't want to feel like I'm starving myself. I don't want to crash my metabolism. I don't want to lose my strength. I don't want to, like, I just don't get it, man. You need to have a certain understanding, like the dieting that you're doing now is going to put you in a position you're going to want to be in, I mean, not that long. It depends on what you're aiming for, but even in the scheme of losing 100 pounds, that's reasonable. Losing 100 pounds in a year has been done by many. Now, maybe not many, in the scheme of like the entire populace, but I mean, these guys get it, right? Anybody that's made a serious transformation like that, if you talk to them about calories and actually like tracking everything, their eyes are going to light up because they know that you get it. We all talk about like, okay, this kind of intake and macros and whatever else, but the guys who actually implement it and get the results from it are the ones who have a good grasp. It's like I was saying, anybody can get under a barbell and do some bench press, but it's something else that's clicked once you can feel you're pushing with your pecs, you know? So anybody that's already into macro tracking, you're counting your calories, you've broken through a plateau by implementing some calorie control or maybe some calorie uncontrol, right? Getting some more food into your system. And these guys know what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, that's the minority. Because and I'm not saying that's for no reason. Tracking your macros is kind of a fucking chore. When I talk about how you should count all your calories and get into your diet and make sure you're hitting specific amounts of everything, I'm not saying that that's easy, right? It kind of sucks in the beginning, especially if you're not like crazy, if you're not like a total nutcase about working out. I'm a little spoiled there because, I mean, when I think about really accurate food scales and everything else, it kind of gets me excited. Like I'm just wired like a fucking gym rat, whether that's a good or a bad thing. But yeah, no, it's some extra work, right? But over time, it actually gets easier, you know, because you could really, I mean, maybe not certain kinds of foods like cakes or anything too complicated. It might get a little tricky. But if you slap like a burrito in front of me and you cut it in half and I can see the ingredients, or if I've got just a plate of steak, rice, and anything else, and like I can tell how buttery it is. Anybody that's done their calories for long enough can look at that and say, that's probably 50 grams of protein, maybe 45. That's 60 grams of carbs. And then the broccoli looks a little buttery, and there's definitely some butter in the mashed potatoes. I'd say probably 30 grams of fats. And that guess is going to be accurate within like a 25% margin, which even the regular foods, when they have a nutrition label, are only held to a certain standard of accuracy. So the guys who can look at something and make that estimation, I really do think just almost have an unfair advantage compared to anybody that doesn't actually, put a lot of effort into making sure they're hitting specific meal-based goals to match their training. Because, I mean, it would make sense. The car that's got enough fuel is going to fucking, go further. It's not going to recover better. That's where the car analogy kind of loses its value. But, I mean, who's going to get better results in the gym? Right? The guy who hits his protein is eating enough food to be well fed and carved up, high energy. He's actually getting enough sleep as well. Or the guy who, just scavenges. I mean, I think that's a pretty decent word for how a lot of calorie intake actually goes down. Not necessarily planned out meals, just walking into the kitchen, scanning the cupboard. Okay, what's in here? Ooh, I wouldn't mind some Cheez-Its. I wouldn't mind a couple handful of goldfish. Okay, I feel full. Move on. I think it's pretty obvious. So don't I don't want to feel like I'm badgering you about it, but anybody that has gotten into it, they know what I'm talking about. And since I know that in that sense the grass is greener on the other side, I'm not going to stop pushing. Not going to stop pushing the calories, the cardio, the training intensity. Get more than 2 hours of sleep because you stayed up playing Black Ops. All of these things add up very directly to your results gains wise, and that's the whole point, man. Right? So that's the ball's in your court. Right? The information's all out there. Getting big is not particularly as complicated as rocket science, but with the percentage of people that actually manage to pull it off, maybe it is. Maybe it is. What are the exact numbers? Right now, I'm curious about some more data. Like I wish I had like a fact checker next to me. Like I could just say, hey Jamie, give me the statistics on PhD students or PhD graduates versus people who have, let's just say been locked in for 3 years or longer, fitness wise. I don't know. Might be kind of close, but I don't have that intel. So plan for tonight: eat, sleep, repeat. That's kind of the classic plan, which I have no problem with. So still 250. What the hell was I about to say? Well, still 250. 250 this morning. I got to get down into the 240s quick because I need to be lean. Not by next week, but I need to keep making some steady progress. So over time, I'm gonna have to continue to limit my calorie intake, but that's a gradual change. That's a gradual and slow process. So until then, shit, man. I'll see you tomorrow for arms. I'm already getting excited about it.